Welcome back to Lounging with John. You know, I've done a lot of podcasts doing motivational stuff for self-esteem and success, goal setting, raising awareness for bullying, supporting those that's been through mental and physical abuse, supporting those that's going through different types of mental health conditions, those going through depression, supporting those that have, been on that edge of suicide. And today I've got a story for you that I want to share with you, and it's been out for a long time. The guy has a couple books out, he's got a movie out, but he really sets a good example on keeping on going no matter how bad it gets, no matter how rough it gets. I'm going to be responding on a video, more than one video really, on a couple different ones that I've watched. A gentleman by the name of Marcus Luttrell, he was in the Navy SEALs, and this guy, he's been through it all. I can say that with certainty. He has been through hell and back and through it again. This guy, when people call him a hero, he'll look you in the eye and he'll tell you, I'm no hero. I just did my job. So let's jump into that story, and I'll be talking a little bit throughout this story as well, making some points and all that. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Stick around, because near the end of the podcast, I got some other very important information for you that you are going to love. So stick around. It was a Wednesday night at 1 a.m. when Marcus Luttrell lost his best friend. I want to share this story first, and then we'll move on to the rest of the podcast on sharing Marcus's experience and battle that he had to face back in 2005. But let's talk about the service dog that Marcus had and what happened. Take a listen.
Yes, sir. I had been in the hospital the previous week and just gotten out, and I don't sleep at night, so I was laying up, and I'd been going back and forth between the houses and stuff like that. Around 1:30, I was laying down, and I heard a gunshot go off out in front of my fence. So immediately I got up, grabbed the gun, grabbed the flashlight, and started running around the house, checking everything out. Went to my mom's room, asked her if she was okay. She said, yeah. I said, stay in the house, don't move until I come back and get you. Then I heard a bunch of talking, and I could see some headlights in the distance. So I leaned up against the tree line. I skirted all the way down the tree line down on my property, belly crawled underneath the fence, and then got up into a ditch. And when I did, when I came around this corner, there was a car standing out there with, four men standing out there, and my dog laying dead in the ditch. Now this, wasn't any dog. After Afghanistan, they gave me this dog for rehabilitation. So it was like it just wasn't like a pet or anything like that. It meant more to me than anything.
Now, before I go on with the story, I want you to hear why he named his first dog Daisy.
Well, it stood for my four teammates, or all of us were out on the mountain that day that died. Daisy stood for Danny, Axe, Southern Boy, and Yankee. That was Mikey. Southern Boy is me, and obviously Danny and Axe, Matt Axe. So, they murdered her cold blood. I mean, it's not. She's a yellow lab, for God's sakes. I mean, I let her out at night. She went out to the front gate, sitting at the fence underneath the light. I'm sure they just pulled up, got out of the car, and all they had to do was clap their hands. She'd walk right up to you and lay down. And they shot her with a .357 Magnum right in the shoulder.
And from my understanding, execution style, point blank range.
Yeah, they executed her. They killed her. That's murder in my book.
And I just want to be clear on this too. I agree with Marcus here. It's murder. And the time that these guys are going to get for murdering his dog, his best friend, his family, they should have got longer than what they did get. I think it was only a couple years, from my understanding.
I had a gun on me. I pulled down, and right before I could get a shot off, they jumped in the car and took off, which is good. Actually, it turned out better because I was able to run to my truck and get in my truck, and then took out after them. I caught them about 3 miles down the road. They were just joyriding. They were out killing dogs. So I pitted them into a ditch, came out the front of my truck, came around the bumper, and was going to try and shoot the driver so I could stop the car. And then, who knows what would have happened after that. But anyways, this continued on for a while. Anyways, they got in front of me. I couldn't get a clean shot off. And once they got in front of me, they were in a car. And my truck, I got a big truck, I just couldn't keep up with them. So I chased them for 4 counties. We were into the 4th county. I was on the phone with 911 calling through the dispatch, and I was like, look, I'm on this road going through this county. I don't think we slowed down under 110 miles an hour the whole time we were going. And by the time we got to Onalaska, or into Polk County, it's, like I said, 4 counties down, they had a roadblock set up. The cop wheeled around, and when he hit the rollers, they pulled over. I pulled in front of them, came out. I locked down behind my bumper and drew my gun again, and the sheriff took over from there, got him out of the car, laid them all down flat and stuff like that, and he pulled me to the back of his cruiser while he was searching their car. And the thing about it is that, I was just like, I was asking, like, which one of y'all killed my dog? And they were like, you think your dog was something? Yeah, wait till we kill you, this, that, and talking smack to me, and I was just like, what's going through my head is like, it's unimaginable. I can't even say it. I could hear them laughing about it, over the fence, over the tree line when I was coming up on them.
Here's one. This is Alfonso Hernandez. He's charged with cruelty to animals. He has, these guys were out shooting dogs. They have killed others. Do you know how many, Marcus?
No, just the report was that this is one the first time they've been out doing it.
Okay.
That's all I know.
The next one is Michael Edmonds. Do you have Michael Edmonds? Now, there's a warrant out for him. You see this dirtbag, you call police. You find out you see this guy anywhere, just in Texas, anywhere. You see that face, you call the police. Gresh, can we get a phone number? We'll put a phone number, and I want to play that. I want to put his face up out of every break today. Let's find this dirtbag. Marcus, the other two, I guess, are not implicated in this. They were just sitting in the back. This is what police say. They were just sitting in the back of the cruiser, so they're known as witnesses.
Well, that's a problem with people that kill dogs. If it was a person, that would have been conspiracy to commit murder. All 4 of them would have been in prison. Now, I consider that dog just like a daughter to me. So these guys can sit there and laugh about it. Oh, it's serious now because I ran them down and got the cops on them and they're in jail. And wait, I was just sitting there and I tried to talk them out of it. You're gonna feed me that load of crap, man? You sat there and were laughing about it. So, you can feed lions all day, but I can see right through it. People who buy off on that stuff are weak. I'm not weak. I know what they were doing. And when they got caught, they get yellow, that yellow streak right up their back, and then they start, coming up all these different stories and stuff like that, and it's crap. And, you need to be held accountable for what you do. If you're going to go out and kill somebody, and you get caught, then you man up to it. It's just that easy.
Marcus, I talked to your mom. I talked to your mom, when was that, Friday, when I talked to you last? And I talked to your mom. You're the funniest, because you're one of the baddest dudes I think I've ever met on far as you get the job done. And one time we were supposed to meet someplace, and your mother came with you, and you work, she has a ranch, and you work on the ranch and everything else. You kind of watch over your mom. And you came and you said, "I'm sorry I'm late, Mr. Beck, but Mom wanted me to finish some chores." Your mother said to me, Glenn, this is why we need our guns. We're out here. When Marcus is gone, I'm out here all by myself. How am I going to be able to protect myself? Most people are not crazy, but there are crazy people, and sometimes we don't put the crazy people in jail. Marcus, I think America is going to demand that these guys spend, I think maximum is 2 years in jail. We will do everything we can to make sure. I know PETA, we called them. PETA is watching tonight. I hope to God that they are going to join us. Marcus, we will talk to you again, my friend. Thank you very much.
So this is a story about, the unfortunate situation that happened with the service dog. Now, Marcus did get another dog, and that's working out good for him. Not sure, what the status is today because it's been a while. And, I found this story, and now I'm, obviously doing a podcast on it. But the main story we're getting ready to get to, the main point of the podcast that I'm getting ready to get to, is coming up. Give it a few minutes, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hold on. I want to take the time to remind you, if you're yet a subscriber here at The Lounge, go ahead and tap on that subscribe button and join us here at The Lounge. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Lounge with John. And while you're at it, go check out the new merch that we have in our store when you get a chance. And now, back to Lounging with John, Marcus Luttrell podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back. And now it is time to get started with the main story here. And I'll tell you what, if a story like this doesn't move you in any way at all, then I don't know what to say, because what he's about to share really honestly shows pure strength. I mean, you have to be someone that really has a just a lot of strength and the mindset to just keep going. Nothing was going to stop this guy from doing what he needed to do. And he just kept on going and going. There was no stopping. And I don't know about you, but if this was you or me or someone else, are you going to jump off a cliff? Is it very often that you say, look, we've got two choices. We can jump or get shot. In a lot of cases, I think a person they would freeze. They wouldn't know what to do. And these guys, not just Marcus, even his best friends, they showed nothing but strength, power, and braveness. These guys are warriors. Marcus's friends, they're heroes. Just like he said, they're heroes. Now, you tell Marcus he's a hero, he's going to tell you no. I was just doing my job. My friends, they're heroes. Me, I was just doing my job. I was doing what I was trained to do. I was doing what I was told to do. So let's listen to this, and then I'll be back in a few minutes.
I'll get up here and tell you a little bit about myself, a little about what I did for a living, and then ultimately about Operation Red Wing and stuff like that. So I appreciate y'all having me out here. I remember when they said that I'm about to stand like right here. Yeah, this is it. So when they told me that I was going to get a chance to come talk to y'all, I was all over it. A lot of times when I go and I give these talks and everything like that, you're talking to a group of people, corporate America or something like that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of times when you tell a story about combat or losing some friends, a lot of people don't understand that, and you can always tell that by looking in their eyes, you know what I'm saying? But being police officers in service and stuff like that, I'm sure a lot of y'all, we run the same line pretty much. When one of us dies, it resonates through the whole community. Everybody hears about it. So I also jumped at the opportunity to get over here because we lost 30 of our teammates last week. So we've been on the road putting all of them in the ground, and that one hit pretty close home too. One of them was my brother's roommate, and I went through buds with a couple of them. So been a long couple of weeks. So I get out here and talk about another disaster and get my mind off of that one. I don't know. It's funny how that always works out. You know, you talk about something more terrible than the other one to get your mind off of it. So that's what I'll do. I grew up on a small ranch out in East Texas, man. It's a horse and cattle ranch. You know, dirt poor, this, that, and the other. I got an identical twin brother. He's a Navy SEAL. I got a mother with gray hair because of all of it. And my dad, you know, he was the kind of guy who ran the nest with an iron fist. You know, you come home from school at the end of the day and he toss you a beat and he's like, I know you did something, just because I didn't catch you doesn't mean you didn't do it. You're going to pay for it, you know what I mean? So that's pretty much how I was raised, you know. It's customary in my family for all the men to serve in the military. You don't have to serve in any particular branch of the military, you just had to give service. My dad would say, before you exploit this country, you're going to serve it in some form or fashion. I didn't have any idea what that meant when I was a kid. Obviously I have a great understanding now, but back then, you know, it's just like, you know, whatever, Dad, you know, ducking that next slap's coming around the bend. So it was unique. Another thing in my family, you know, I got a lot of buddies and stuff like that, and their fathers, they pass down stuff, and it's been in their families for generations, like watches and rings and stuff like that. Well, in my family, my dad always said, he was like, son, he's like, oh, we don't pass down anything like that. You know, he's like, we don't give watches, we don't give rings, because that stuff, you can lose that stuff. That stuff can get taken away from you. In our family, we pass down discipline and respect. He's like, I'm going to give you discipline, and through discipline, you're going to gain respect for yourself and respect for the others. The only way you're going to lose your respect is if you lose your discipline. And that's all he ever gave. I always wanted to watch, but you know, it's just like I never got that. That was just a discipline and respect thing. So it actually got me pretty far in life. So I'm kind of happy he did that, and obviously I'm gonna pass it on down to my boy too. So when I was about 14 years old, I was down in the barn doing some chores, and my brother come running down there. And I don't know if he saw something on TV, and you know, I'm gonna tell you right now, Hollywood does a great job of sexing up what we do in the military. It's not near as sexy as it looks on TV. I'll put that out right now. You know, you get shot up at the end of the day, there's no beautiful woman waiting on you. I've been shot a couple of times, and she was never standing there. You know what I mean? So don't believe everything you see on TV. But he's like, yeah, it's great, man. We're going to be Navy SEALs. We get to jump out of airplanes, shoot guns, blow stuff up, and there's a 50% chance we're going to die. And it's how ironic the only sweet spot on the stage is right here in the sun. You know what I mean? I'm out here suffering with y'all, all right? So I was like, yeah. I was like, all right, so 50% chance we're going to die. Great. My brother and I's saying is if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. So that's how we run. So he had another great idea. Down away from us and down away in Texas, about 40 miles. Those of you Texas boys out here, you know what I'm talking about. But there was a gentleman who was in Vietnam, and he trained people to go into the special forces. It wasn't a regimental schoolhouse. You didn't have to pay any money. You didn't have to sign up. You sign any waivers, anything like that. You just showed up and stuck it out. And if you stuck it out, you went through his program, you made it into your prospective branch of service. To date, he has 5 SEALs underneath his belt. 4 Green Berets, a multitude of Rangers, and a lot of Marines. So he knows what he's doing. Basically, give you a background on Billy, though, he was pretty much our town psychopath. Everybody from a small town, you know what I'm talking about? Like you see him in the supermarket, your mother grab you and walk the other way. That kind of guy, you know what I mean? That was Billy. So we asked our father to take us over to his house. He lived in an old plantation house outside of town. And we asked him to take us over there after dinner one day, and he did. And I knocked on the door, and I'll never forget it, you know, I mean, for as long as I live. We caught him during dinner time. He had a piece of fried chicken in his hand when he answered the door. And he was a giant of a man to me back then. Now he's this tall to me. But back then I was staring up at him, you know, and he was like, what do you want? And I was like, well, we heard you train people to go into special forces, sir. We were wondering if you train us. And he looked over my shoulder at some buddies of mine and he said, 4:30 tomorrow, and slammed the door in our face. So we backed out of there, and the next day we showed up. And I remember we were running up to the house at 4:30. And he was already out there waiting on us. And you could see him in the distance, man. He was saying something. Looked like he was saying something. He was yelling at us. You know, he was pointing and cussing. He was blood red. And as we got closer, he stopped us in the street. And this was my first lesson with Billy, all right? My first life lesson, and I actually carried it in the military, and it actually pertains to civilian life as well. But if someone tells you to be somewhere at a certain time, you're always 15 minutes early. That's on time. You know what I'm saying? Reason being is things change. You go, at the end of the day, you get the word, you're like, all right, be here tomorrow at this time, and then you show up the next day and word's already changed. And if you're that guy who always shows up at the given time, then you're the weakest link in the chain, man. You're the cancer. You're what gets people killed.
Like in our line of work, if I show up at the given time and I don't get the new word, and we go outside and go into a house and I go right instead of left and my buddy gets his head blown off because I wasn't there early enough, then that's on me. And when people die, it's not just that guy dying or that woman dying. There's a ripple effect. That travels into the families, the parents, the daughters, the sons, the brothers, aunts, and uncles, and stuff like that. And that's I got to carry that weight. I mean, I got to show up to their house and say, your boy got killed because I was 15 minutes late. I couldn't show up on time, or I wasn't paying attention. You just can't carry that burden. There ain't no reason to be late in your entire life unless you're dead. And if you're dead, you don't have to worry about it anyways. So he stopped us out on the street and he drew a line in the sand. He's like, stop right there. He's like, every day you come here, I'm going to ask you to cross this line. He said, being in the Special Forces is a voluntary program. You can quit anytime you want. You can quit right now. You can quit when you get on this lawn. You can quit tomorrow. You can quit when you get into training. You can quit when you get into the SEAL teams. You can quit when you get into combat. All you have to do is raise your hand and say, I'm done. And that's the truth. They say when a man goes to war, his brain turns to water and runs out of his ears, and all he has to go on is instinct and the guy to the right and to the left of him. He's like, if you want to take this, on your shoulders, cross the line. So, 14 years old, you're still invincible, right? You can't take any punishment. So we're like, yeah, let's get it on, man. So we cross the line. And I remember he's like, get down on your faces, give me 300 push-ups for being late. And that's not a lot of push-ups, but if you got some guys who aren't in shape, you're going to be paying the man. And I remember we got to about 200, and we had one guy going up, one guy going down, or one guy laying on his face. Billy was standing on top of him, I remember that. And he was like, stop what you're doing. He's like, a team goes up together, a team goes down together. A team lives together, a team dies together. You guys aren't a team. Start over. So we started over. And about 3 hours later, we get to about 2 push-ups, and there'd be one guy going down and one guy going up. And he was cussing us for everything we were worth. I mean, I've been a frog man for almost 14 years, and I still haven't had a cussing like that. He was telling me my mother should have done something other than have me, and I was just like, I was a kid, too. I was like, you can't talk to a kid like that these days. He didn't care. But he's like, get off my property. He's like, you're a disgrace to your family. Tell your daddy to start over. So we left, and I showed up again the next day. And I showed up again the day after that. And I did that from the time I was 14 years old to the time I finished college and left for the military. And as I grew from a kid into a young man, into an adult, and as my body changed and as time progressed, the workouts changed and what he did to us changed. And I remember I use the analogy like the Karate Kid. You remember that movie? You're waxing the car and painting the fence, you're getting your butt kicked, you don't have any idea what's going on, but when it goes down, you're just like, oh yeah, I've been here before. That's what was going on at Billy's schoolhouse. And he actually only sat us down twice and told us why he was doing what he was doing. we were out on the freeway with a telephone pole, and this kid quit and ran off and stuff like that, and he was just like, I purposely do things to you that I know you can't pass. He's like, you're a human being, you bleed. He's like, you're not the Hulk. That's what he always tells us. He's like, you're not the Hulk. He's like, I know you're not going to pass this. I'm going to knock you down. I'm going to knock you down to a knee. I'm going to knock you down to your back. I'm just waiting to see if you quit or if you get up. If you quit right here, you're going to quit for the rest of your life. There ain't no sense in even doing anything. He's like, but if you get back up and come after me with everything you got, eventually you're going to pass what I'm throwing at you. And that's what would happen. Eventually, you get back up no matter how hard he hits you. You get back up and you go after it again. And eventually you'd pass it. And as I left off and became a man, stuff would come at me. I'd be like, I've been here before. It may not be the same thing, but I've been underneath this pressure and I know how to deal with it. And you advance. Everybody out here set goals for yourself. You know what I'm talking about. You achieve that goal, you get that strength, you know what I mean? In your belly, that fire grows up a little bit bigger and you're just like, yeah, here I am, let's go. Let's get something else. Well, that's what was going on with Billy. And I took that and I left for the Navy, and I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life. For those who've been in the Navy, you know what I'm talking about. Navy means never again volunteer yourself. Because I was just like, I want to be in the SEAL teams. I don't want to be in the Navy. You know what I mean? You can't do one without the other. So, yeah, I got in there. It was the first time I'd ever been up north. It was snowing, there's a blizzard on. It don't snow in Texas real much, especially where I'm from. Doesn't rain either. So, I had to qualify and pass a series of tests to go to a school to become a Navy SEAL, and that school is called BUDS training. All right, and I'll touch briefly on it. BUDS stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. Anybody and everybody on this planet who's a Navy SEAL has to go through this schoolhouse. It's in sunny Coronado, California. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, some of the best stories I've ever heard, out of SEAL lore come from people who aren't Navy SEALs. I'd probably kill you with my thumb, but you know how long that would take? I'd rather shoot you or cut you and get it over with, you know what I'm saying? And if I'm standing out behind a door with a mask on my face and this thing jacked out saying, here we go, we're in trouble, you know what I mean? There's other ways to get that done. So don't believe everything you hear, you know what I mean? Well, I got to Coronado, man, and you know, I had everything I owned in a bag and had my uniform on, and it was dark when I got there the first day. I walked into the quarterdeck, and there was a big podium in there, and there was a SEAL instructor in there, and he was wearing sunglasses, and it was dark, and when people wear sunglasses and it's dark, that really bothers me. If you're not blind or Elvis, you can't pull that off, you know what I'm saying? So I remember I smarted off to him, and he was like, why are you here? And I was like, I'm here to be a Navy SEAL. And like I said, I've been a SEAL for almost 14 years now, and I still don't know what the right answer was supposed to be. It's supposed to bow. I've been thinking about it a lot. I was like, I don't have any idea. But he reached behind this desk, and he pulled out this big meat thermometer, and he threw it at me and hit me in the chest with it. And he's like, go out over the beach here, go get in the ocean in chest deep water and get me a water temp till I come get you. And I was like, roger that. Well, I did. I walked out there and sat down there. I didn't know that the Pacific Ocean never got warm. Did y'all know that? That wasn't in the brochure when I was signing up for the Navy. He's like, oh yeah, it's great. Sunny Coronado, California. And I was like, whatever. Well, about 3 hours went by. 2.5, 3 hours, and this class came running by, and an instructor peeled off. He started calling me some names, you know. He's like, hey, come out of the water. I came out of the water, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't have any, you know, I was out in my dress uniform out in the ocean. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, this guy told me to get a water temp. He's like, that guy left about an hour ago. He's like, you're not going to make it through this training. And I was like, I'll give it one heck of a shot. I was like, you're probably right. I don't know, I probably ain't going to make it. But that was my first morning of buzz. The next day I showed up, and there was 164 of us classed up. Imagine every man, every alpha male from all walks of life across the United States showing up to one schoolhouse to prove to somebody that there's somebody. You know what I mean? They show up here. We had an accountant, a lawyer, a professional baseball player, collegiate athletes, you name it. My brother had a Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey balloon clown in his Bud's class. Yeah, I remember running down the beach one day and there was balloon animals all up and down the beach. He didn't make it, but he showed up. So there was 164 of us showed up here. First thing they do is they put us in this height line from tallest to shortest, and they split us off into these 8-man crews, and that's called your boat crew. That's basically your lifeline. Now, BUDS is 3 phases long. Anywhere and everywhere you go in BUD training, you go with this boat crew. For any reason you get split off by yourself, you take one guy with you, it's called your swim buddy. You get caught by yourself, stand by, you're probably not going to make it into the next day. You ain't going to be around. So, I give you a basic gist of first phase. What we do is wake up in the morning about 4 a.m., run out to the ocean, jump in the water, come out, roll around the sand, start your day wet in sand, and you take off. You do a 2-mile run, eat breakfast, you come back, then it's usually a 4 to 6 to 8 mile conditioning run, or a 2-mile ocean swim, or an old course, or something like that. And then you do a 2-mile run to eat lunch, you come back, you do whatever you didn't do in the morning, 2-mile run to eat dinner, and you come back, and then it's a follow-on evolution, usually an old course or a run or something like that. Anywhere and everywhere you go in first phase, you run around with these rubber boats on our head. And they're not real heavy, about 270, 300 pounds, but you got 8 grown men running around. That shouldn't be a big deal. But after about 3 minutes, it feels like someone put an engine block on your head. And I use the analogy like the drunk driver. You know, who usually gets jacked up when a guy's drinking and driving, and it ain't the guy who's doing what he's supposed to be doing. It was that idiot who was drinking. What happens with this boat scenario is we'll be running down the beach, and a guy will think to himself, he's like, my neck's about to break in half. And it probably is. You know, more people die in our training than they do in combat. That's kind of the nature of the beast. That's a little hidden gem right there. Don't tell anybody I told you all that one. So he'll think to himself, he's like, no one can be in as much pain as I'm in right now. And he'll pull his head out from underneath the boat just to get about 3 seconds of relief. But he's too proud to tell anybody else that he's hurting so bad. All he had to do is cut his eyes to the left or to the right, and he'd look over at one of us and see that we're bleeding from the head, and, you know, snot pouring out of our nose, got that stupid face you make when you're in pain. You know what I mean? But he won't do that. He'll pull his head out from underneath the boat, and what happens is it shifts all the weight that he was carrying around to all of us. And if you're not ready for it, you're going to get hurt. And usually what happens is a solid guy, a guy who was putting out, gets hurt, we lose him, and then we have this moron. But the beauty about our community and going through this training is we can police our own, and we can get rid of these guys. We'll be like, hey man, you need to quit because you're not putting out. And, you know, most of the time they will. Sometimes we'll be like, nah, I ain't quitting. And be like, well, you're going to have an accident then. And we're going to get rid of you. Because contrary to popular belief, not everyone's special. I don't care what your mama told you. You know what I mean? This is the real world. The real world. So we usually get rid of them guys. Well, the culmination of first phase is this thing called Hell Week. And everybody, if you've heard anything about SEAL training, you hear about Hell Week. You think if you make it through Hell Week, then that's it. That ain't it at all right? I'll put that out right now. Hell Week's just a gut check. It's in the beginning part of first phase, and it's just a basic beat down to make sure you got what it takes so they can teach you some advanced training. What happens is we start on Sunday, they break us out, guns blazing and bomb, Artie Sims going off everywhere, and you just run around like a stomped ant. I mean, you don't have any idea what's going on. And then it starts, and it's basically a day of buzz 24/7. The only time we get to lay down is on Wednesday. They got these tents set out on the beach, and they put us in there for 2 hours. And you think you're in there trying to get some sleep, but that's not it. Basically, the reason they put us in there is to level you out. They want you to lay down because you've been on your feet since Sunday, and all the blood started to pull down in your feet. And once you don't have blood up here and it's all down here, weird stuff starts to happen to you. I remember I crawled up next to a tent pole and buried myself up to my chin in sand. I thought that would warm me up, but it didn't. And then after the 2 hours, they throw us out in the surf zone for a couple hours. And that's when we lose most guys. Because what has happened is a lot of the guys, their uniforms have started to dry off and they started to warm up a little bit. And when they tell them to get back in the ocean, most of the guys have hydrophobia or something's broken on them or their hip flexors are torn or something like that. And they're done. They quit. They're gone. So after that, we continue on until Friday. Kind of give you an idea how tired we get. I'll tell the story that the best way I can explain it, how tired we get going through Hell Week. I remember Thursday, we were running down the beach and they had us in a single file line with the boats on our head. It's called an elephant run. And we were in a dead run down the beach, and a guy 3 boats up ahead of me fell out, hit the beach, and just was laying there. Well, we thought he died, broke his neck and died, because that happened to a guy in the class ahead of us. So as we were running over the top of him, I looked down at him, and he was snoring. He fell asleep in a dead run. Now, I've fallen asleep sitting down, and I never fell asleep in a run. I thought that was pretty much impossible, but he got it done, man. So that kind of gives you an idea how tired we get. Like I said, they secure us on Friday. We got Saturday off. Sunday's a med check, and then Monday morning's a timed run. If you fail it, then you're done. They kick you out. After that, we go into second phase. It's our dive phase. It's what separates us from the other special forces, is our ability to work underwater. 74.32% of the globe is covered in it. We can be anywhere on it in 24 hours. That's kind of our mantra. Now, I was a scuba diver before I got into the SEAL teams. That was a long time ago. I really don't remember what a normal dive is. Like 60 feet for 60 minutes, staring at the fish and the boats and all that stuff. A normal dive for us is usually about 4 to 6 hours. And that's in the pitch black, staring at nothing. My longest dive on record was 10 hours and 47 minutes. I have 2,796 hours of bottom time. So that's our business, is being underwater. I actually fell asleep and woke up underwater twice. I woke up in college a couple times. I was like, where am I at and how did I get here? When I woke up underwater, I was like, yeah, this is unique. That's how you get your gills, man. That's it right there. So dive phase, we lose more people in dive phase than any other phase of training because being underwater is unnatural to people. After that, we go into third phase. It's weapons and demolition, basic pistol, rifle, explosive charges, blowing doors and stuff like that. All basic stuff. And then we graduate. Started with 164 guys. At the end of the day, there was 10 of us standing. My brother had 254 guys in his Buzz class, and he had 16 guys standing that graduated, I think. So that kind of gives you an idea of the attrition rate. Well, what that does, though, is it forms a bond that's tighter than any kind of blood bond you'll have with anybody. And those guys we start training with, we go into follow-on training with, and we go into combat with. And the whole reason for going through all that and going through that hell and that terror is you don't have to look over your shoulder to make sure that guy is standing behind you. I often point people out in the audience. I'm like, is this your best friend? He's like, yeah. I'm like, why? He's like, we hang out, we watch football, whatever. I'm like, you ever been in a tight spot with that guy? You ever been somewhere when everything started falling apart? When they just put the screws to you, when that vice just keeps going and going. And you look over and he's looking at you going, I ain't going anywhere, man, but we're going to die here. You know what I mean? It ain't the guy bailing you out of jail. It's the guy sitting in jail with you kind of thing. You guys can understand that one. So that's what I'm talking about. That's what's forged here. And even if I don't like that guy, I mean, you're not going to like everybody. But work and play are two different things. I may hate this guy's guts, but as soon as we put that uniform on and go out, all business, you know what I mean? And then when we get back, I'll go on to hating him again, whatever. But that's what's built from day one, week one of Buds until we get into the SEAL teams. I got into the teams. I guess I got lucky. If you're a gunfighter, you need something to shoot at. The wars kicked off right when I got in, so they sent me to Iraq. I was there for 7 months. I came back for 4 days. I left again for 9 months. Came back for 2 days. Again for 6 months. I came back for 2 weeks, and then I just did that my whole career. And then I got on the hook for Afghanistan in 2005, and I remember my brother was already over there. And I was talking to him. I was like, "What's Afghanistan like, bro?" And he's like, "You want to know what it's like living in the Wild West 2,000 years ago? Come back out here." I was like, "I'm on my way, man. Save me some." I was jacked up. I was a city and a jungle fighter. I'd never been in the mountains before. So I got out there. I saw my brother for 5 minutes, slapped him high five. He's like, "Don't die." I was like, "I'll try not to." And then I started. And I was on my primary mission set when I was in Afghanistan. I was on an SR team, Special Reconnaissance Team. Basically a 4-man element. They'd push us out. Our insertion platforms, either we'd free fall out of the back of an airplane, fast rope out of a helicopter, Humvee or horseback or foot, whatever it was. And we go in and we sit on a target anywhere from 6 to 10 days, watching one guy, one individual. We don't go after armies and militia. That's a ranger type stuff. They do all that mess. We don't do that. One guy. And we sit in there taking video, taking notes, and gaining intel on him. And then at the end of the day, if we got the green light, we either kill him or we go in there and snatch him out of there for follow-on intel. And that was my job. So we were doing that for about 3 months, and then Red Wing came down the pike. Basic gist on Operation Red Wing was we were going after a guy by the name of Ahmad Shah, high-ranking individual in Bin Laden's army. He had anywhere from 80 to 200 men in his militia at any time. He ran on the Afghani-Paki border in the Konar province. Everybody, you watch anything on Afghanistan, you hear about the Konar. It's the devil's cauldron, the armpit, whatever you want to call it, the hornet's nest. That's where we were going. So it was a SR mission with a sniper intent. So we were going in there to capture a kill. And it had been on the books for a while. I kept getting pushed to the right for whatever reason. I can't get into it. But when we got green lighted, I remember we had just come off a previous op, and I was walking in. They were like, "Go get your team. You're going back out." And I was like, "All right, roger that." And I pulled into the intel shop. And I was talking to that guy. I was like, "Anything changed on Red Wing?" He's like, "No, same thing. We're going to drop you off about 10,000 feet elevation. You got a 4-kilometer insert. It's going to be anywhere from 110 degrees in the daytime, probably be about 5 to negative 5 degrees on you at night. It's snowing." He's like, "Got anywhere from 80 to 200 fighters you can encounter." And it kept going on and on. I got hung up on the 80 to 200 part. I was just like, 80 to 200. I was like, "You can't narrow that down? Because I'm going to pack a little different if I'm fighting 80 guys as opposed to if I'm fighting 200. You know what I mean? But we don't wear body armor. I just had a pair of camis on, a baseball cap, and a harness to carry 10 mags. And that was it. So the ram dropped on the back of the helicopter to push us out. And I remember thinking I'd never seen it so dark out there. Because when the sun goes down in Afghanistan, the moon doesn't come up for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on where you're at. Because of the mountains. So it was a big deal, actually. It was so dark that our night vision goggles weren't working. Most of y'all know how NVGs work, but you don't just smash a battery in those things and they automatically work. That ain't how that goes down. You got to have some ambient light to push through them to get a clear reticle. We didn't even have that. We were fast roping, so it was a big. We fumbled around the back of that helo for a while before we hit the ropes, hit the ground. Team consisted of myself. I was the team lead. Mike Murphy, who's actually my best friend. He was the officer in charge. Primary sniper was Matt Axelson. He was also our point man. I'll refer to him as Axe. And the last guy on our team was Danny Dietz. He was a Colorado boy. We actually were on the same SEAL team together. But a unique thing about our community is if you walk into a room full of us and say, "Give me 10 guys and tell us what you need done," we can go do it. And if I walk in the door and get my head blown off my shoulders, the guy behind me knows my job. He can step up and do it, and the guy behind him knows his job until you have to kill every last one of us before we stop coming after you. That's how we're designed. So we hit the ground at 9,650-something feet, I think, in a snowbank. And a helo left. And I remember thinking, I was just like, I looked over at Mikey and I was like, "Man, I think they dropped us in the wrong country." Because it wasn't that shale rock and all that stuff you think Afghanistan was like. I thought they dropped us in East Texas, man. It was green grass everywhere, big trees and bushes and stuff. I was like, "Yeah, we're in the wrong spot. Get the map out, So we kind of sat around with that for a little bit and got up online and Matt took out, and then behind him was Mikey, behind him was Danny, he was our communicator, and I was running rear security. I was the biggest and the slowest. Now, we only had 4 kilometers to go, but where they dropped us off is kind of like, imagine a horseshoe laying up here on the deck. They dropped us off on the left side of the horseshoe. We had to go to the right side. You're not going to go all the way to the top of the mountain because you can't silhouette yourself, and you're definitely not going all the way to the bottom because you got to climb back up. So we had to cut right through the middle of it, and like I said, it wasn't that shale rock and all that. The mountainside was sand. and there's thick shrubs and stuff like that, man. It took us 8.5 hours to go 4 kilometers. To give you an idea, you can get on your belly right now. If you took off crawling, you could clear 4 miles in under 8 hours. So we were good and pissed off by the time we got there, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So we laid up on target, man. And I paint you another picture. You're staring at the belly of a mountain. Any kind of formations coming off the side of them. Not to insult anybody, but those are called fingers. All right. When two mountains come together, the area in between the two mountains is called a draw. Everybody got that? So we had come up on the top of the mountain. It turned into Afghanistan. It was that shale rock and that nasty smell, that gets in you and infects you. And right off to the right side, there was about an 800-meter finger coming off of it. Well, we started patrolling down that. And we looked off the side of it, and about 8,000 feet below us was our village. Imagine a volcano. Take a bunch of beehives and stick them in that volcano. That's what a village in Afghanistan looks like. Well, as we were looking down the mountain, there was a grove of trees right underneath us, about 450 meters wide and about 150 meters deep. After that, it turned into 150 meters of grass, and then the mountains bottlenecked, kind of hourglass, and they opened back up, and then our village was down there. So we just kind of dropped off the top of the mountain about 30 meters. And we had to take out our shovels and use our boot heels and stuff and dig out these little shelves, and we'd stand in them and lean against the mountain. And we wanted to watch the target, we'd lean off the mountain like this and grab a tree and pull up our binos or our cameras or whatever. When we were done, we'd lean back and you just set up like that. We were in a triangle formation. I was at the very top, and Mikey was directly underneath me and Ash to my right, and Danny was on my left flank. About a 15-meter spread, that was it. So we sat there and watched the target, man. There wasn't any 80 to 200 fighters. The sun had come up. All we could see down there and hear down there were some mules bellowing, some women yelling at each other, and a couple of kids crying. That was it. No men in the village. It was weird. So Mikey looked up at me. He's like, I'm going to take an axe and we're going to find a different spot, because we couldn't see all the houses in the village. We were limited. They got up and left, came back about an hour later, and then he's like, I got a spot, let's go. So we all packed up and got it back up on the finger and moved all 800 meters down to the end of it. See if this mic works over here. So the mountain kind of dropped off right here. And right here was a big old stump. We think we're in a logging area, man. It was like all the trees were chopped up or burned up. A big stump right there had been burned up. There was bushes laying around it and a couple of boulders. When Matt was our primary sniper, he laid up in that. Tree came from the stump, was right here, about quad high to me. Branches everywhere, it was all hollowed out. I just laid down parallel to it, just pushed my body underneath it. I was his spotter and a secondary sniper. And then Mikey got to my left about 50 meters. I couldn't even see him anymore. And then Danny got right behind me, 20 meters probably. He had the only piece of shade on the mountain, which is a big deal because it was about 110 degrees that day. I remember asking, I was like, hey man, you want to switch? And I couldn't see him. All I could see was he just raised his hand and shot me the finger, and I was like, all right, check. So, only thing rank means when we're out there is if we screw up, I'm going to have to take the blame for it, and then I'm going to put it off on Mikey because he's the officer. You know what I mean? So, that's how that works. Otherwise, we're a family. We've been together for years. So I just started watching the target, man. I was just glassing the target down there, and all of a sudden a pair of little brown legs jumped over the muzzle of my gun. And I didn't hear this joker. I didn't see him, and biggest thing was I didn't smell him. Those of you who know what I'm talking about, how your senses, man, are just on point. And I didn't have any of that. And it really threw me for a loop. Because I couldn't see if he had an AK, RPG, or anything. And I was trying to wiggle my way out from underneath that log. I was bull in a china claw. I was a big boy back then, man. I was coming up to engage. He turned around, looked at me, had an axe in his hand. And, I'm a human being. What's your natural reaction after you get scared real bad? You get upset, right? Well, that's the same thing happened to me. He had a big, long beard. I remember I reached over, I subdued him, pulled that axe away from him, and then stuck my hand in that beard and wrapped it up and drug him over that tree, man. Those of you who ever done it, that works. So you want to get someone's attention, they got one of those, grab it. Tell you whatever you want to know. So I drug him over where Danny was in the shade, and I was trying to tell him he was going to be okay. I wasn't going to kill him. But you can bet your bottom dollar that 70 to 80% of us don't pay attention in language or ethics class, because most of the stuff we memorize and learn is to scare them. Like the devil sent me, prepare to die, I'm here to, all that stuff. So, we wear those cat eye contacts and stuff like that. Paint your face up. But I was trying to tell him he's going to be okay. And about that time, Matt whistled up and he's like, I got two more. And I was like, well, bring them here to me. And everything just kind of started falling apart around us, man. It was a kid. He was about 12 to 14 years old, and another adult male. He's about anywhere from 40 to 90. I don't have any idea neither do they, man. But them kids, 12, 14-year-old kid, we zip-tied him. You turn your back on a 12-year-old kid over there, he'll cut your head off and play soccer with it. And I use that analogy because I've seen it happen. So it's not like a 12-year-old boy over here. So we sat him down, you know, and in all the mountains in Afghanistan that they had to come up on, they had to come up on the one we were sitting on. You know what I mean? In their world, that's inshallah. God willed that. In our world, that's just bad luck. So Mikey had come down, and we started thinking about what we were going to do. I know everyone would like to think that war is black and white, and you can write everything you want me to do down in a book and give it to me, and I can just study it and know it. But it ain't like that. It's gray. And if you don't fight it in the gray area, you're going to lose. That's my opinion. That's the last one you'll get. But anyways, we turned these jokers around to execute them quietly. And as we turned them around, 7,500 goats came bebopping up the hill. And then I immediately looked down on the ground. I could see the goat path. You know, you could see the goat turds on the ground or whatnot. Changed the whole dynamic of the mission. Because there's a reason there's a goat path there. Because for thousands of years, there's been some goats walking over the top of it. You know what I mean? And they don't stick around and wait on these herders. They come up there, eat their grass, go up the hill, go back down over the mountain, come back in the village, show up without the herders. The whole village comes back to make sure they didn't fall off the mountain, you know, whatever it was. And there we are, you know what I mean? So we started running through every scenario possible. We were just like, all right, what if we zip tie them? And then do what with the goat? We're going to zip tie the goats? Zip tie the goats. I didn't bring enough zip ties. Zip tie 75 to 100 goats. Even if we zip tie 10 of them together, you know what I mean? I don't have enough. Like, what if we execute the goats? And I mean, one of our city boys said that, and I was like, execute the goats? I was like, I grew up on a ranch, but what are we going to do with them once we kill them? Throw them off the mountain? Because you don't bury anything in Afghanistan, you know what I mean? You stack it. So what are we going to do? Throw it off the mountain? By the time you threw the 12th one off the mountain, you'd be laying right here. That's how tired we're going to be. You know what I mean? So there's no options. You know, we were just steadily running. And this is going like this, you know. We're like, all right, let's turn them loose. Let's just turn them loose and get out of our way, and then we'll just go somewhere else. There was only two places on that mountain we could hide to get a good vantage of our target. Where we were and where we came from. So we turned them loose, and they left. Man, they were gone in a shot. Took them 20 minutes to get out of our eye line. Took us an hour and 15 minutes to climb up the same hill. That's how fast they are. Did it with their hands behind their back and a pair of flip-flops. Just gone. Well, we went back up and, you know, dropped off the side of that mountain face in that original position in that triangle formation. I was at the top. Mikey and then Danny was over here in an axe on my right flank. And just started watching the target. And I pulled my hat down over my eyes. I don't know how much time went by. But I hear Mikey signaling below me. So I just kind of rolled my cap up. I was looking down at him, and he was looking past me. His eyes were bigger than sand dollars, man. And then the smell hit me in the face. I could smell him. And I was like, all right, check, I got you, man. And then my rifle was right here. I cradled it, and I rolled over, and I looked up the mountain like that. There was a big tree in front of me. There was the first guy I saw had an RPG over each shoulder and an AK-47. He was postured up looking down at us like this. And there was about 30 or 40 guys in line with him. And then there was about 30 or 40 guys coming down our left flank, and then on my right flank, just as many. I couldn't see. It was kind of thick over there, but you could see them moving in there. You could hear them. Biggest thing. Well, there was a big tree in front of me, and I just held on that tree. And all of a sudden, I saw an AK muzzle and a balaclava, or a wrap, come around. And I threw my weapon on fire, and he pulled back around, and I could hear him screaming. You could hear him talking up there, you know. And I turned around, Mikey. I was like, get back on the clock, man. We're fixing to go, you know. Heart starts beating, hair starts raising up on the back of your neck. I was holding on that tree because I knew that guy was right. I had just seen him looking at us. And the rest of these jokers were flanking us. So I was kind of looking at them through my periphery, and as soon as that guy pulled his head around that tree again, I took the first shot and I dumped him. And when I did, it just unleashed hell on our left flank. I mean, it just flooded in there. I remember turning around and I was screaming at Mikey at the top of my lungs, and he couldn't understand a word I was saying. That's how loud it was. Well, I didn't have a machine gun, you know, I had a sniper rifle, so I was having to take concentrated shots. I don't know how much time went by, but I had 3 mags laying underneath me, 3 30-round mags. You know, you dump somebody, and they'd either come up and try and drag him out of there, or they just advance. You know, it was weird. I'd never been in anything like in something that intense, actually. Well, I started taking real heavy fire by my head. I had a little tree right by my ear. I'd been leaning against it. And a round pushed through it and shot me. Shot me in the gun. I just felt the vibration go through. I didn't have any idea where it hit me. But when I leaned off, it shot me in the mag, thank God. And as I was dropping a mag to load another one, I looked around Mikey. I was like, what do you want to do, man? And he was like, fall back. And I guess my hips rolling around and trying to get vantage points, that shelf I had made broke. And I just slid out of there. Just like a trap door, just slid out of there. And I guess my foot hit a tree or a rock or something, man, because I came over the top, and as soon as my chest rolled over the top of my legs, that was all over. I just started flipping. And when I hit Mikey, I was upside down and backwards, and I hit him with everything I had. All 270 pounds of me. And he didn't see me coming, man. I could tell by the way he screamed when I hit him. And we just started pinballing in those trees. And I always thought, you see on TV someone rolling down a hill, you're like, hey, reach out and grab something, stop yourself. You know what I mean? Well, I always thought I could do that. I never tried it. But I always thought if it happened to me, I could reach out and grab something. But when I did, man, it just ripped it right out of my hand. Flipped me. The worst thing was it flipped me in a different direction. And we pinballed through those trees, and when we broke that tree line, we did a couple of flips. And when we hit that grass, the grass was actually boulders and trees, actually. And the grass just grew up in between it. And we hit that and stopped us dead track. And I looked up. Mikey was about 20 meters from me. He turned around and looked at me. His face was all bloody. And I was like, are you okay? And that's when they hit us with the mortars and the RPG. Man, the world just started blowing up around us. And we sat up. We tried to make our way down that grass area, 150 meters, that bottleneck. You take 2 or 3 steps, man, you fall. Try to climb back up, and just whatever you could. There wasn't any tactics to it. You're just getting the hell out of Dodge kind of thing. That's what we were doing, man. Weapons slung, just running. And we hit those 2 big logs laying there. We just flipped over those. We did a systems check and everything, and then got back up on line and started firing back up the mountain. And I looked over my left flank, and Axe was running towards us. And there was guys, they were chasing him. And he took a round through the back, came out his left rib. And it dropped him on his face, and he rolled a couple of times. And he made it to us and flipped over that light and say one word. He reloaded, re-engaged. Then we started shooting back up the way we came, but it looked like it was a complete brownout. It looked like someone dropped a brown curtain over where we came from. And you could, it was hell on earth up there, and Danny was still up there on the radio. And then you see his body, you see him pinballing through those trees. We thought he was dead. He flipped out of those trees and hit the ground and was just laying there. Well, we made a movement to go get him. And as we stood up, he sat up. So we hunkered back down to give him some cover fire. He tried to make his way all the way to us. He came short about 40 meters. And I came out from behind a log, grabbed him by his LVV, and I drug him, I bellied him, and we flipped over that log. And I sat him down. I was asking him, I was like, please tell me you got that radio call off, because if you didn't, no one's going to have any idea where we're at or where we're in. And he was trying to talk to me, but you couldn't hear anything. And he raised his hand like this, and his thumb had been shot off. It was actually hanging right here, but and then I was like, all right, check, I got it, man. I was like, can you fight? And he was like, yeah. So we loaded a mag. Now we were actually on another boulder about from me to the end of the stage, and they had pushed past us and started shooting up into us. The only place we had to go was off that boulder. And it was actually the biggest fall we took. It was probably about 35 to 40 feet, best guess. And there was another boulder about 6 to 10 feet from it. There's some shrubs stuck in the middle of it. Well, we just consolidated and Hail Married off that thing. We broke through that brush, hit the ground, we pancaked on top of each other and got stuck because of all of our gear. And they just came down in there and started shooting down in that hole. And Danny got shot in the throat and shot in the back. Well, we untangled ourselves and we maneuvered out into that draw, and we just fanned out. Just skirted to the sides of the mountain. We started pushing down the mountain. I guess an hour went by, and I was so tired. I just felt like my lungs were on fire. The altitude and everything. I just sat down. And when someone's shooting at you and it's personal, those of you know what I'm talking about, that crack, that bullwhip, that pop, if it ain't hitting you and it's flying right past you, that's constantly going on. I didn't even care. I just sat down. I was like, whatever. And then Mikey sat down beside me. He looked over at me. He's like, man, this sucks. I was like, I know. I was like, I'm tired. And then Danny came next to me. I was the medic. And he's like, I've been shot again. And Mikey got up. I was trying to look at him, and then Mikey just drug him out of there. He's like, we all been shot. Keep going. So we started pushing, and we pushed down the mountain. I guess another 2 hours went by. And by this time, I was dragging Danny. I throw him up on my shoulder, try and fireman carry him, but dang terrain was so bad, you'd slip and fall, and we'd tumble, whatnot. So I'd drag him, I'd pick him up, whatever I could do. Both his femurs were broken, and his left lung was down, so he shot 4 or 5 times, I think, I don't know. We got to an area where I was like, if I throw you off this, I was like, you're going to slide right off the mountain. I was like, I'm not going to be able to catch you. I was like, I'm going to pick you up, man. I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to take the brunt of this. I was like, when we hit the ground, you spread eagle. You spread everything you got. I don't care how bad it hurt, you spread everything you got to keep, because if you don't, we're going to slide right off the mountain. And as I turned around to fall, a round came down, hit him in the back of the head, and killed him. And I wasn't ready for his dead weight. It shoved me a different direction. I face planted in the side of this boulder and broke my nose. Shoved it through my face, actually, and I bit my tongue in half and swallowed it. Totally incapacitated me, man. I just kind of crawled off behind this boulder on my hands and knees, and I had my fist in my throat trying to find that thing. I finally got it. I pulled it out and bit down on it so I wouldn't swallow it again. And I looked up, I could see his shoulder, I could see our platoon patch. Obviously there's blood everywhere, but I tried to get back to him. But once you fell a certain distance, you weren't getting back up the way you came. So I got underneath him, but I started taking real heavy fire, and they pushed me down. I caught up with Mikey. He's like, "Where's Danny?" I was like, "He's dead, man." I was like, I couldn't get him. And we tried to go get him, but by this time they had come up from the village, and they had us in a 360-degree pin, so you couldn't stop anywhere. You just had to keep moving. I was on the left side of the mountain, perched up on this little overhang, shooting back up lateral. And I don't know how he got there. I didn't see him. I don't remember passing him or anything like that, but axe walked out from behind this rock, and I couldn't see from his chest up. I was kind of firing off right there, and he wasn't running. He wasn't shooting his weapon. Matter of fact, his weapon was at his hip. He didn't even have a mag in the well, and I almost shot him actually. And he sat down on the ground was on fire right here, and he sat down Indian style on my right boot. I remember that, and I was like, "What are you doing, man?" I was like, "I need help." I was like, "Man, you got to help me, man." And first time he ever said anything to me, he's like, "Man, I can't see, man, I'm blind." They shot me in the face. And I turned around and looked at him, and they shot him right here. And this is all gone. You know what? I don't even know how he was talking to me. I was just like, I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see anything on him, but he was sitting there from here, talking to me, and I was like, just start walking, man. I was like, just get the hell out of here. I was like, if you start meeting resistance, you're going the wrong way. And I turned around to give him some cover fire. He got up and left. And as I turned around, Mikey was out in the middle of that draw on our satellite phone. I forgot he had that. And you could see him talking, and he took 2 rounds to the chest. He spun like that. And that really bothered me. I tried to get back to him. And I got right underneath him, probably from me to the top of the awning here. And I was trying to scream for him. Nothing's coming out of my mouth. I was trying to come down to, all I wanted to do was just to come to me, and I was going to carry him out of there. I was like, just come to me, man, and I'll get us the hell out of here. And he sat up, and he finished the phone call off, but he lateraled, and he went behind these rocks. I couldn't see him anymore. And it was too steep. I'd been shot in the leg, I couldn't get up there. And I could hear his gun go off. And I could hear AK fire pretty steady in there. Some RPGs busted. And then you could hear him, he started screaming for help. He's like, "Man, I need help up here, man, I need help." And then he started screaming my name. He's like, "Marcus, you got to help me." And then he started screaming my name louder and louder and louder. And I was leaning against this rock. I was sitting on my boots trying to load my weapon. And I put my weapon down and covered my ears because I couldn't stand the way he was screaming my name. So I don't know if that makes me a coward or not, but that happened. I did that. And they killed him. I never saw him again. I started taking some real heavy fire. But it was constant pretty much. But I moved down. I could see Matt below me. I made it down to him. There was a rock overhang. There's 2 logs leaning against it. There's a little stream running around here. And I crawled underneath there with him, and I was looking at him. And I was like, "We're going to freaking die here, man, right now." And I made my peace with God a long time ago about dying. I don't want to come home and die of cancer or in a wheelchair crapping on myself. I was born a certain way. I want to die a certain way with my boots on, kind of thing. But it's a weird feeling when you're about to die, like when it's right there. Normally you don't see it coming. So I was just like, we're gonna die right now. And an RPG hit right beside it. And I was in mid-conversation. I mean, I had my mouth open when that thing hit. And it sandblasted us. I didn't even know what had happened. It hit us so hard. And I was kind of one of the things, I was looking up to see what was going on, and then another one hit right beside us and blew us out of there. And blew me one way and blew him another. I never saw him again for the rest of my life. When I came to, I was upside down. My legs were up this wall kind of thing. I was paralyzed from the waist down. I had broken my back, my pelvis, shoulder. I'd been shot. I had frag everywhere. But I kind of rolled my body over and used my elbows and crawled on the side of this mountain and grabbed all this mud and sand and packed it into my wound so I wouldn't bleed to death. Because all my kit had been ripped off of me. And I buried myself in a shallow grave. And I didn't move 1 inch. I mean, I didn't move 1 inch for the rest of the day. I was scared to death. I could hear the Taliban and Al-Qaeda come down off the mountain and celebrating and, finishing off our bodies and do what they do to us when they get a hold of us, And I couldn't see them. They were right around the side of this draw. I couldn't get up. And I laid there, and as the sun was going down, I was trying to get up, see if my feet worked. I looked across the mountain. I could see something glistening over there. I got down on my scope, and I could see a guy leaning against a rock with a silver AK. They sent a HKT, a hunter-killer team up there to find me because they knew they were missing somebody. And I took 2 shots at him and missed him, and third time I hit him in the belly, and he fell. And then he had 2 buddies with him, and they actually came over and hit on my side of the rock. I engaged those 2 guys, and then I got up and went this way. And this is the longest night of my life, man. It's impossible for me to even get into it, what happened to me and everything. People are like, what kept you going? Your family, your religion. I was like, yeah, man, that was all really important to me. And it did, But I was so thirsty that it was driving me insane. Like, I actually laid down to die twice. I was like, you're dying, man. Just lay right here. And I was laying there, and I was like, man, I'm thirsty. I was like, I know I'm going to hell, and I know they don't have water there. Get up. And that's what I tell myself. I was like, get up. So I get up, and I just start pushing, man. And I did everything I knew to do to get water. From the time I was a Boy Scout to the time I was a Navy SEAL. I mean, digging in the ground, breaking branches. I'd work up a good sweat in my sock and wring that out. I'd drink my urine. I'd open up a wound and drink and funnel the blood in my mouth, whatever. And nothing would quench the thirst, man. Well, the sun was coming up, and I was reaching down. I was holding onto a tree trying to grab another one, and I felt an AK go off. They shot me in the back. And they had been chasing me all night. I didn't know it. And it turned me into a flip. Because it actually hit a tree and then just went straight through me. And I rolled down about 200 feet and landed on my face. And I rolled over and I was looking up. I was like, because I had no idea what happened. I kind of had a pretty good idea, but I didn't know where it had come from. And I was looking up, and there was a guy pointing at me and screaming at me, and 2 guys shooting at me over here. And I just rolled over, and nothing worked from my chest down pretty much. I just rolled over on my belly, put my arm in between the creases, and I just used my elbows and my hips and just kind of drug myself up the mountain. And I just stole myself off the backside of it. That's how I was faster than they were. I didn't care, I was like, break my neck and whatever. I broke my neck and just didn't kill myself, so it totally backfired. But I still got the job done. And I managed to crawl up this last embankment, and I crawled into these big, huge rocks, and I just laid there. And that guy the spotter was chasing me hilltop for hilltop. I let him walk right into me. I shot him in the throat, closer to me and you. And then these other 2 guys came around and had 2 grenades left. And I lobbed one, and the way it was set up was kind of weird, but I just kind of Hail Married one over there, and I know they saw it before it went off. And that was it. And I turned around, and then I started crawling, And, when life gets tough, man, you go from that speed to torque mode. That's what I was in. I was just like, all right, we're in trouble.
Before we go any further, I want you to really listen to this, because he points something out that gave him that motivation, the strength to keep on going. And it was something that I believe he picked up from a long time ago. And he still used it today. And it's something that you can look at as well in your life if you feel like you're ever stuck. Now, I understand he was in a, death or life, situation here. He would either keep on going or be killed. And I get that. But it was also a form of motivation, a form of strength that kept him going. Right here.
So I just grabbed a rock and I reach out and draw a line in the sand, and I'd crawl to it till my feet hit it. And if I was still alive, I'd do it again. So I draw a line in the sand, crawl to it, do it again. And I did that for 7 miles, and I found a waterfall.
Now, if you go back and you remember what he was saying in the beginning about the man that was preparing them back when he was only 14 years old. Remember, the guy said, when you come here every morning, I'm going to draw this line, and it's going to be up to you to cross it or not. And now he uses that same story when he talks, but that moment in his life earlier with that guy making that point that, you know, here's the line that's being drawn. You get to this line, you cross it, right? I believe that helped him. I really do. Not counting the fact that, you know, he was trained to be, you know, one of the best killers that our Army could ever, you know, put in the war. But it was a form of motivation that kept him alive. Strength that kept him alive, kept him going. This is an amazing person that, you know, I could salute 1,000 times and it wouldn't be enough. Let's move on.
I don't know how I found it. I mean, I don't have any maps or anything. And I managed to get to the top of it. And I don't know how I did that either, but it's how it worked out. And then I had this great idea. Write this down. This doesn't work. I was going to slide down into the stream, you know, and I had one good cheek kind of open this area, and I was trying to get on that, and I just took off. And I actually reached out to grab something to stop me from sliding down that mountain, and it flipped me upside down. And I did a map study about 1,200 feet straight down that mountain. Took flight, landed in the riverbed, split my head open, my knees hit me in the face and knocked me out. I don't know how much time had went by, but I woke up, and I rolled over, and I went to get a couple of drinks out of that waterfall. And I heard someone screaming at me and two guys positioning to shoot me. And this is the first time I ever got upset. You know, I was really upset me. And I tried to stand up to show a sign of aggression. All I wanted them to do was come down in front of me so I could kill them with bare hands. You ever been that mad where you want to kill somebody with your bare hands? That's how I was. I was just like, please, just come right here. You know, that's all I wanted them to do. But as I stood up, my legs gave out and I fell. And I rolled down this hill and I got in an area where I couldn't get out of. And I was like, you're going to die right here. They can see you. I couldn't see them. And as I swung around to shoot this one guy, a guy came up from behind me. He must have been 30 meters off of me, screaming American. And I swung around on him, and to this day, I don't know why I didn't kill him. Matter of fact, he came and to visit me about, I guess it's been about 5 months now. We were talking about it, and I was like, I don't know why I didn't kill you when you walked up behind me like that. And he's like, I don't know why I let you live. And I was like, that's a good point. And I'm glad you did that. But I did ask him, I was like, why did you let me live? And he's like, because you're just a boy. And I was just like, you know, that kind of hit me wrong at first. You know, you don't call an alligator a lizard, right? I was like, boy. I was like, I was a grown man. I'm a war fighter. He's like, you're a boy. He's like, you're just a kid. I don't kill kids. And I was just like, all right. I appreciate that one too. But anyways, it got real weird now, you know. I mean, the guys were chasing me, came around this rock, slung behind their back, you know. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. Well, they picked me up, carried me down in their village, sat me down, gave me all the water I could drink, took me into this room, took my clothes off of me, started doctoring me up, dressed me up in those man jammies they wear, you know. And I was laying on this bed. I guess about an hour or something went by and the door kicked open and Taliban flooded into the room. And, you know, I sat up. I knew who they were. You know, I've been chasing them, hunting them long enough. They're easy to spot. Plus, they speak English, and they were like, we're the Taliban. But I knew that before they told me, you know. So I was just kind of sitting there, man. I really don't get into too much detail of what they did to me. You can use your imagination. It's definitely an interesting time in my life. But I have the ability to put my mind, you can do anything you want to my body because they can fix that. You know, my mind, you can't break that. So that's how I got through that. But that's when I learned that Mikey actually got that SAT call off on the SAT phone, and the rest of my platoon came in on another helicopter. And when it went to land, a 12-year-old boy shot an RPG in the back of it and blew it out of the sky and killed 16 more of my teammates. I didn't know that had happened. And that happened right on the other side of the mountaintop I was fighting on. That's how loud it was on our end. Couldn't hear a helicopter getting blasted out of the sky. So that hit pretty hard. I thought they were lying, but one of the guys was wearing one of my buddy's wedding rings, and whatever. I won't get into it, but they had me all day, all through the night, and the next day, and I was laying on the ground, bleeding. The door kicked open, a villager walked in. I turned around, looked at him. I was like, "They coming to cut my head off?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, all right." I was like, "Tell them to get it done, man." I was like, "My fun meter's pegged." I'd had enough, man. And then 3 more villagers came in there, picked me up, carried me out of there, took me down this mountain, and stuck me in a cave, and left me in there for 27 hours. And then they came and got me, pulled me out of there, and for the next 4.5 days, they strategically moved me around that village to protect me from the Taliban, because they had encircled it. They're trying to, every 15 minutes, someone's trying to kill me. They put me in a room, bullet would fly through it, wall blow up, and villagers would run in there, grab me, and haul butt down somewhere else. I didn't know this, man, but it's a custom and tradition in that village, thousands of years old. If they bring you into their village, give you food and shelter, they'll fight to the death to keep you alive. And that includes at the cost of all lives in the village. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't walk down the street. If I was shot in the belly, no one would bring me in their house and help me. You know what I mean? And I was creating all kinds of havoc for these people. And then I remember we were sitting in the room one time. I'll tell this story and I'll get out of here. But I was telling them, I was just like, when I used to go out on an op, I had a laminated picture of a lady who died in the Twin Towers. Her mother gave it to me. I wrote "No Mercy" on the back of it. She died on one of the top floors. And I'd kid up and I'd just sit on the edge of my bed and imagine her dying. And like the building falling on top of her and her bones cracking, blood coming out of her eyes and her screaming for help, just all kinds of sadistic stuff. And I just worked myself into a rage, man. And when we go out, they'd pay for it. I didn't care. Good, bad, or indifferent. I didn't think anybody was good in Afghanistan unless you had an American flag on your shoulder. I didn't care. And I was sitting in this village and I was just like, I'm sorry. I didn't think there was anybody good out here. I didn't really care. But I appreciate you saving my life. I didn't know you existed. And he looked at me, he's like, "War is hell." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, it is." And then that last day I was there, I was laying in a riverbed eating I rolled off into these bushes. I was eating these berries off this bush. Don't ever do that if you don't know what you're eating. I'm still paying for that one. His hair kind of stood up on the back of my neck, man. I turned around, and the old boy I was sent out there to kill was standing right behind me. And I had my rifle back. I pulled it out of the bushes. And I was like, "I'm fixing to blow your head right off your shoulders, man. I know you know what I'm saying. I know you speak 7 languages. I know everything about him." And the main villager who was watching me come running up, and they kind of walked off, came back about 15 minutes later, put a bounty on my head. $1 million, land in Pakistan, hand the American over kind of thing. They wouldn't give me up, though. So they went this way, and the villagers picked me up, and we went this way. And we came around this corner. There's an Afghani standing there with an AK-47 and a baseball cap on and said, "Bush for president." And I was like, "Take me to that guy right there." I was like, "I know exactly who he is." I was like, "He's Afghani Special Forces." I was like, "We give him that crap so we can spot him in a gun battle." And as they were carrying me up, 2 Army Rangers came down the side of the cliff and grabbed me. They were like, "Marcus?" I was like, "Yeah, buddy." And I remember I never hugged a man like that before, but I was just like, "Come on in for the big win." I was just like... That's the first time I'd heard English, in a week, man. I was just like, "Oh, God, you took that stuff for granted." That lasted about a minute and a half. And they pulled me off into this, it was actually a mule bin, and sat me down. And I had taken a marker from a kid a few days prior, and I had these maps and everything drawn up on my quads. I didn't think anybody was going to find me. When I could walk, because they had to carry me everywhere. When I could walk, I was heading out of there. I wasn't going to die in that village. So I had all these maps of Taliban layup positions I'd learned from the villagers when they'd come in, and I debriefed them. I was like, "This is what you got, right here, here, and here." And I was about 10:30 in the morning, about 11:30 that night when the 60 came in to pick me up. And everything I just told you fails by comparison as to what happened on that rescue and that crew coming in to get me. That was just a unbelievable feat under gunfire, And they grabbed me and took me out. We landed in Bagram Air Base. And typical military, instead of taking me to a hospital, they took me to a debriefing room. I was like, "I could use some medical attention," I was like, funny story that about the second day in there, they were having to pull a shrapnel out of my legs and stuff like that because I'd start to ooze and bleed and get infected and whatnot. So they'd hold me down. They started pulling out stuff out of me. I was screaming, and then they'd go to sit on me to hold me down. But I was so jacked up on my back, and every time they sit on me, something else would break or go bad. And this old man come bebopping in there, man. He rolled up his green putty, and he shoved it in my mouth. And I didn't know what it was, but it was opium. And if you've never done opium, it's great. Because and then they didn't find Matt. They pushed me off. I was in the hospital in Germany for, I think, 11 days. That's 9 to 11 days. I can't really remember. And I got a phone call saying they found Matt. He lived through that RPG blast, too. And when they found him, he was laying dead with an empty pistol mag laying next to him 3 miles from where I left him. So he kept fighting. I couldn't believe it. I was like, no, he's supposed to be right here. He's like, no, he's right here. And unbelievable, true testament to him. But I'm sure there's plenty of veterans out here, and you know the deal. We don't ever talk shop to anybody other than another veteran, and it's usually over a beer or something like that. But people ask me all the time why I get up here and tell this story, and I really, it all boils down to one thing. If I get up here and tell you this story about my buddies, and tomorrow you turn around and tell somebody else, and the next day they tell somebody else, and then my teammates, their memory will never die. That's better than any statue, any movie, any book. So that's why I do it.
I think that this is a story that really is one of them, just heroic strength. There's so many things that I can point out in this story. Now, I know I used the point a little bit ago, about drawing the line in the sand and keeping on and going. And what I meant by that was that, no matter if it's you in a position where, you're being shot at, or you came to a brick wall in your life and you just, you don't know what to do. You feel like it's just done. It's never just done unless you decide that it's done. And he proved that. There might have been a lot of people that would have went through that same situation and gave up way, way, way before. He didn't give up. He kept drawing the line in the sand. He kept on going. He kept on giving all that he could give. And his friends, they didn't give up. They kept going. It wasn't because of their own choice that they stopped. They didn't give up. They died doing what they loved doing, fighting for their country. And I've seen several other videos with Marcus talking, and in one he said that these guys, they're prepared to die, right? They're prepared to die. They're not scared to death. And if they can be over there fighting for their country, doing what they love, well, that's okay. Instead of, dying because of tubes in your nose or because of a nasty cancer. And Marcus said that. He said he would rather die that way. Because that's what he knows. That's what he believes in. So I hope this podcast can, hopefully you can get a message out of it. And hopefully you will share this with other people. Marcus wants, other people to talk about it, and then those people talk about it, and, to carry this story on. It means a lot to him. So, Marcus, there's no words that can come to describe, how much I appreciate what you've done for our country, what you've done for your brothers, and for the person you are. And I believe that anybody listening would agree. God bless you, brother. Thank you for being who you are. Maybe one of these days you'll come and see us here at the lounge. And maybe one of these days I can shake your hand. But until then, I'm going to share your story. I'm going to talk about your story. Because you deserve that. All of us here at the lounge want to thank all of you veterans and everyone else that is still standing on the line for our country, fighting for our freedom and our safety. God bless and take care.